If you're looking for more joy in your life, there's a beautiful shortcut you can try: giving flowers. The science shows there are happy benefits for both the person who receives flowers and the one who gives them. Today we'll talk about how working with flowers can be joyful too. That's all up next on Still Time for Joy, where we share practical advice for weathering life's storms and inspiring stories of resilience. Hello, I'm Sandra Levine, host of Still Time for Joy. My guest today is Ken Malagiere, owner of Narcissus Florals in Toms River and Spring Lake, New Jersey, who's also an artist and a foundation director. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Thank you, Sandy. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
So you're the perfect person to talk to about joy and flowers. We've known each other probably about 10 years, and you seem like a pretty joyful person to me. So the studies show that both the person who receives flowers and the person who gives flowers both benefit. Do you find that to be true?
Oh, we absolutely do, each and every day. The gift of flowers brings joy to so many folks, and equally the sender receives that thank you that fills them with gratitude for being able to have the opportunity to share that joy with someone else. And often it's someone they love.
Now, other studies have shown that flowers can reduce your blood pressure, can reduce stress, can boost all kinds of happy brain hormones. What can you say about flowers and why they bring people so much joy?
I think it's working with something that's organic and living and has its own life cycle that brings folks really closer to nature, closer to their own inner joy and humanity, knowing that the beauty of flowers is inherently fleeting, is just something that we all live with and deal with in our daily lives. And so seeing something come through bud, through bloom to fruition, and then even as they start to expire, they do so with grace and beauty. And I think that brings folks just a tremendous amount of joy and harmony into their lives.
So, as we're talking today, Valentine's Day is just about here. That must be a crazy day for you, or crazy
It is.
week or two leading up to it. What's Valentine's Day like if you're a florist?
Valentine's Day is like the Super Bowl if you are a florist. It is everything all at once. Whereas the other holidays that we tend to celebrate throughout the year, whether they be religious or just joyful moments, are often extended periods of time or over a weekend. Valentine's Day is not that way. Valentine's Day is February 14th, and no one wants to receive their Valentine's Day flowers on the 15th, that's for sure.
And it's a day when people who don't give flowers at any other time of the year, I'm sure, come out and say, I have to have flowers for my wife.
They sure do, and it is a male-dominated holiday in terms of the senders. So if that's any indication to some of the listeners, that often means it's a last-minute holiday for many.
And I'm sure you wish they would order just a little bit earlier.
Just a little more advance notice would be nice.
So we send flowers, give flowers to express all kinds of emotions at Valentine's Day and other times to say, I love you, to say thank you, to say I'm sorry. They're also part of weddings and funerals. How can you explain how flowers are able to help us express emotion?
That's an excellent question. I think that flowers are just a beautiful part of our lives and humanity, have been so since recorded history. And even pre-recorded history, there's quite a bit of evidence that flowers were present for some of the earliest burial rites of humans, well before organized religion. Flowers were used as a sign to exchange of love and gestures of goodwill among some of the most ancient civilizations of the world. And they've been used for coronation since the beginning of time. They've been used, as you mentioned, for weddings. Often that was to mask, and certainly in the medieval era, the pungent body odor that often was accompanied with all of that perspiration and clothing that was worn at that time. So there is a reason for everything. Of course, in bereavement and burial rites, flowers also mask the the scent of those who have passed on. So there's a logical reason why folks use flowers for all of those occasions, but then there's also a more symbolic and everlasting. They represent, of course, eternal life and everlasting love, which is why it does bring so many families comfort at their time of need, certainly in times of bereavement, for sure.
And the colors are beautiful, and the fragrance, as you mentioned, can be beautiful. So
Absolutely.
they can bring instant happiness and joy. One of the few things I can think of that you get flowers when the doorbell rings and the delivery person is bringing you flowers. Everybody smiles and you just feel great looking at them. And the studies also show that it just increases the connection, the feelings between the recipient and the person who sent them. So,
Absolutely. And it's just such a beautiful experience. There's so many fewer surprises, positive surprises in life these days. You mentioned one of the more beautiful, smaller, tender moments when you get a surprise at the door that's unexpected and beautiful all at the same time.
I've always loved both buying and receiving flowers, and I've been to plenty of florists in my life. There is something a little bit different about arrangements that come from Narcissus Florals. And I've heard that you've actually had people tell you they can spot a Narcissus Florals arrangement when they see one. They're just a little bit different. So tell
Yeah.
me, what is your vision about what floral design should look like? And how do you get your designers to achieve your vision?
Well, I appreciate that question because I find no greater joy than hearing that in our profession, and that folks do share that experience with me as often as they do. We do get most of our inspiration from extensive travel and our love of the arts. You mentioned briefly, and I appreciate you saying so, that I'm an artist in my own right. I enjoy art. I enjoy color theory. I enjoy seeing how textures work together. And there's few things more textural, artistically speaking, than combinations of flowers in different varietals. And we're very fortunate that we're able to source them from all over the world, not only through our third-party distributors, who of course do much of that legwork for us, but going to direct and farmers directly to ensure that we have the finest product available in a given season. Seasonality is something that we deal with. Of course, our product is also perishable, which means it needs to be quickly delivered from farm to florist. And that's something that our entire industry deals with on a daily basis. And it's a people-heavy business. If you imagine, there's someone that has to actually cultivate the crop. There's someone that has to package that and bring it into. So at every step along the way, flowers experience that love of the human process, that hands-on process. They need to then be designed, and then more often than not, certainly in our industry, in our business, they're hand delivered. There's few things that are hand delivered these days, not in a FedEx box, if you'll allow me to say so. So that makes that experience even more personal, to know that someone else took the time and the care, with the God-given talent, to make sure that that gift is as well received as we hopefully always intend that it is.
And as an artist, you do paintings both in watercolor and in oil. And I want you to explain your vision as an artist, both on the canvas and working with flowers. What is it that makes a Narcissus floral arrangement different?
I think what makes our designs most different is the use of our texture in our designs and our very intentional flower placement. We do have our designers who are tremendous artists, all in their own right, creating sample arrangements for certainly for all of our wedding designs, just to make sure that they are just right. We welcome in our brides and grooms well before their weddings when we're doing reception work and other larger scale pieces, so that we can ensure that their vision is our vision, and we are really just helping to bring their vision into life through the art of flowers. And the art of flowers is really something that I am passionate about, the language of flowers and the meaning that they convey. And I think that finds its way through to floral artistry from my own personal artistry on canvas, which is to create that feeling. My personal style happens to be more impressionistic, which allows the viewer to kind of have their own time, their own moment with the piece, and fill in the blanks on their own. And I find that to be inspiring personally. So that's what I try to share with anyone else that cares to view my art.
So how is it, Ken, working with all those brides? Are they
It's
easy to work
lovely.
with? Everyone is
Well,
different.
everyone is different. All the visions, visions can vary, and there's a lot of different themes. So thematically, every wedding is different, and every wedding we do is custom. We don't follow, strict guidelines of numbers of blooms per piece. It's really what is necessary to make the piece feel right, look appropriate, and they're all different experiences. I'm very fortunate in our business. We have a group of folks who are just dedicated to dealing with brides, and on occasion I still am able to be that person. But we have folks who are dedicated, and that's all that they do all day long is work with our brides and grooms and ensure that they're having that beautiful day flower wise that we hope that we're able to deliver on.
Now, your father, Tom, started Narcissus Florals in 1989, and I've read that you've said you grew up under the counter. So, what
Yeah.
are some of your earliest memories of flowers as a child?
Well, my earliest memories of being in the flower shop was actually fighting my brother. I have a twin brother with the paper tubes that come out of the foil wraps that would go around plants at the holidays. We were 5 years old, I think, when my father started his first business. So that's my earliest memory. That was long before we were able to touch the flowers, but I think we were first processing flowers when we were little kids. And I remember the first arrangement I ever sold was when I was 12 years old. That at that time, the business was in Seaside. And it was a Thanksgiving weekend of when I was 12 years old. I do remember that quite clearly. But it's a very fond memory. I like to think I've become a better artist over time, but I do distinctly remember that as my first floral piece that I sold.
Do you remember what kind of flowers you used?
Oh, it was those terrible treated oak leaves and big fall mums. I'm sure it looked like a blessed mess, but whoever purchased it thought it was wonderful, and I was just delighted that they chose my arrangement at that moment. I probably owe them a refund.
Now, you really hadn't intended to go into the flower business. You graduated college in 2005 with a BA in
That's right.
political science and international studies. So, what was your plan and what changed?
So the plan was to take a year off between college and law school, and a buddy of mine, we're still friends to this day. He was also doing the same thing, not quite sure what we wanted to do for our graduate work or post undergrad, I should say. And we thought, well, my father at the time wanted out of this business. We thought, well, how hard is it to run a flower shop? And 20 years later, this May, I found out just how hard it is to run a flower shop. Coincidentally, that's longer than he owned the flower shop now that I've had the pleasure to be at the helm. But it was always the plan to go to law school. So I married a lawyer instead. I think that was the right decision.
It occurred to me your husband's name is Jonathan, and it occurred to me you have both ends covered, right? You have
Yes.
the flowers for the wedding.
Yes.
And what kind of an attorney is Jonathan?
He is a family law attorney, so he is able to handle the divorce. We have done several, we like to call them trifectas, where I have done the flowers, he has done the divorce, and they were so pleased with the flowers the first time, the bride or groom comes back for the flowers for their second marriage. So it's a trifecta. We love it. He doesn't get to talk shop at home. I get to talk all about flowers. He, of course, is not able to share his stories as freely as I, but he's also a passionate attorney. He's managing partner of his law firm, so he gets to deal with his own issues there.
And besides running this busy floral business, you are also the executive director of the Ocean County College Foundation in Toms River, New Jersey, raising money to support many important programs as well as student scholarships. You're very active in the community. You've been the head of many different organizations. You've worked as a volunteer for the YMCA, for Kiwanis, for the Chamber of Commerce. How do you find time to juggle all these roles?
Well, I think there's always time. I think that time is something that we can find. One of my best friends says, pretty good at manufacturing it. He's still trying to figure out how that works, but we're very blessed to have the time to give back. And this is all about happiness and joy. And quite frankly, that is what brings me happiness and joy, is working in and for our community. I have that pleasure you mentioned, and thank you for bringing that up, to be the executive director of the College Foundation at Ocean County College, which is the first community college founded in the state of New Jersey. We are the largest community college foundation, coincidentally, of our sister schools. We do a tremendous amount of work to raise funds for scholarships, which we distribute over $1 million a year in scholarship support alone. But also we provide support for different programs. And we're seeing our students who need so much more attention and support and love and care to bring them through to finding their own joy, their path, their happiness. And I think, as any of your viewers might know or have an experience with higher education, that landscape is literally changing right before our eyes. So to have folks that are engaged and passionate and find joy in that work is what is going to, I think, benefit the next generations of students, not only here in Ocean County, but nationwide and around the world.
Yes, and it helps the person to find a career that is meaningful and joyful to them, to have a more productive and happier life, and therefore it also benefits the community at large.
That's precisely right.
In producing this podcast for a while now, I've done a lot of research about joy, and what's really come to be clear to me is that we need to be intentional about living a more joyful life. None of us is joyful every minute of the day. You need to cultivate it. You need to look for opportunities to feel more joyful and to experience joy. So, Ken, what is your recipe for living a more joyful life?
Well, I think what my simple recipe is to find joy in the small moments. I know that sounds maybe trite to some, but those small moments are obviously at the end the big moments. We travel quite a bit to experience joy with others. That is something I find to be really very self-rewarding, is being able to share travel experience, being able to share our life with our friends and our family. That's how I find most of my days spent joyfully. And listen, at a flower shop, I often get to stop and smell the roses. So I have no reason not to be joyful most of the time.
You just stole my final question, which is, after decades of working with flowers, do flowers still bring you joy?
Every day. Absolutely every day. Every day I find joy in flowers, in the beauty that's all around us. We have fresh flowers in our home every day. We are not shoemakers without shoes. I insist on having fresh flowers in our home. It is a beautiful thing, and I hope that others do too. And whether they're purchasing them through Narcissus Florals or another floral artist, or simply picking up flowers in their greengrocer, it's so important to have flowers in your life, in your home, as often as you are able, because they really do have an effect on your happiness and overall well-being. So I'm not selfish. One does not have to purchase their flowers at one of our beautiful stores. I just hope for all who are able that they should have flowers as frequently in their own homes and in their workplace. It does make a difference. And my personal favorite bloom happens to be the peony. I mentioned the beauty of flowers being fleeting. That has such a short, beautiful lifespan. And it goes literally from bud to bloom, and you can witness this flower, almost watch it open in real time. And I think that the joy of the beauty of nature there is just so spectacular.
Well, Ken Malagiere, it's been so much fun spending time with you today. As always, thank you for bringing more joy into the world through your artistry with flowers and your charitable work, helping so many in the community. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Sandy. My pleasure indeed, and I thank you for all of your kind words.
If you found today's show helpful, please share the information with someone who needs it, and follow Still Time for Joy for more practical tips on weathering life's storms, as well as inspiring stories of people who have turned their pain into purpose. Please consider supporting the work that goes into producing the show on Patreon. Follow Sandra Levine Productions on Facebook and YouTube, and learn more at sandralevine.com.